Hello, and welcome back to the War of Ideas podcast. Today, let's talk about media and framing, bias, and I'm going to mention this a lot, sanctimony in the media. Sanctimony might be the ultimate overarching reason of why Donald Trump still has a 40% approval rating and not 30 or 20. Well, actually, let me specify here, not just sanctimony, but the reasons sanctimony arises. Upper class people live completely different lives than lower class people. And when media is geared toward informing upper class people, and media has no idea what the lower classes are going through, or even worse, they just don't care, when the lower classes attempt to watch that media, they're not going to like what they hear. It's going to sound sanctimonious. It's going to sound out of touch. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would people vote for Trump, one of the richest people on earth, but decide that the people in the media are too rich and fancy for them? How does that work? Well, it's easy to make a mistake where you attribute upper class with wealth and lower class with less wealth. Class and wealth are usually correlated with each other, but not always. Let me introduce you to someone that can explain exactly this.
Now, opulent aesthetics are typically cultivated by people with something to prove, whether it's marginalized ballroom performers proving their worth to themselves, or the new rich building McMansions to show off their wealth to others. So there's something kind of odd about Donald Trump. He inherited his wealth, so he should know better than to have golden faucets. But he doesn't. As Fran Lebowitz said, he's a poor person's idea of a rich person. And that's actually his charm. It's part of his mass appeal. Trump behaves like a prole who won the lottery. So there's actually something kind of relatable, unsnobbish, and even pseudo-democratic about the golden faucets. People who have wealth but not class are actually very popular in this country. We don't like class here because class is exclusionary. Whereas anyone can acquire wealth, we tell ourselves, so wealth feels potentially inclusive of everyone, even though in practice, it isn't. Now, the upper class cultural elite in this country, the real classy people, are mostly very unlike Trump. Instead of being ostentatious and gaudy, they embrace the reserved old money values of aristocratic WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. Fussell notes, for instance, that they tend to value privacy over showing off. They like to live at the end of long driveways and houses away from public view. They dress down while traveling so as to avoid drawing attention to themselves. These are essentially survival skills of the experienced rich.
That was ContraPoints. That was a clip from one of her YouTube videos. Highly recommend. Go check her out. It really is a different world between the cultural elite and everybody else. And it is that makes Trump seem like an authentic guy. He's not in the cultural elite. He's shunned by these people. Like, yeah, he sounds like an incomprehensible buffoon when he's at his rallies, but even if he's hard to understand, there's still aspects of his rallies that people are going to like. People don't like rehearsed, calculated, inauthentic speeches. People don't like when you sound presidential. If you're just making an announcement about something you did at the State of the Union, sure, be presidential. But if you're trying to win people over, if you're trying to change people's minds, and show them how good of a person you are, the more authentic you seem, the more people will like you. So even when he lies straight to your face, he talks as if he's your friend. It's not sanctimonious. It's, as ContraPoint says, it's unsnobbish, if that's a word. It's not self-righteous. As much as he lies, you know, everyone knows this, that from the way he speaks, it's the real him. This is what he's like everywhere. This is how he acts in private as well. And it's not a facade he puts on when he's on the TV screen. And before I get too far in, let me just assure you, when I say media, I'm mainly talking about mainstream media. When I say mainstream media, I am talking about the news that you see on cable TV, the CNNs, the Foxes, the MSNBCs of the world. Why does mainstream media suck? And why are they helping contribute to Donald Trump's approval rating being over 40%? Why does mainstream media suck at convincing people that Trump is insane? Well, for a minute here, you can forget about Fox, so just bear with me here. Maybe they have convinced people that he's insane, but they haven't convinced them that that's a bad thing. They are acting so sanctimonious when they talk about him and when they talk about the Republican Party that the middle class and blue-collar workers in middle America listen to this for 3 seconds and you can instantly tell by the tone of the voice that they're using that they're snobs. And it makes you want to side with the insane person instead of the mean, degrading person. There's a difference when Trump tweets at Greta Thunberg and tells her to take a chill pill, and when Don Lemon scoffs and fakes his incredulity at the fact that Trump could say something so stupid. Everyone knows that some insults hurt more than others. Everyone knows the ones that really hurt. Have you ever been in a situation where a group of friends is whispering something about someone else so they don't want them to hear it? In high school, there's a group of friends who talk about people behind their backs, and some of them don't even care if the person they're making fun of hears it. There's not just different levels, but different orders of magnitude in cruelty when it comes to hurling insults and high school drama. There's telling someone you know that they have crooked teeth and they're ugly straight to their face. But hey, you're the type of person that says that to all your friends, and everyone knows you as the jokester, and it's funny when you make fun of other people. And then there's whispering to your real friends that this person is ugly and has crooked teeth. And you know, I think I can put the difference between these two things into words. Why an insult in one situation can be so much more hurtful than an insult in another. And it's if you are part of the posse, if you are part of the group, if you're all sitting at lunch together every day and making fun of each other, that's fine. But making fun of the person who doesn't sit with you at lunch, who isn't in your group of friends, that's different. Has anyone seen or remember the clip of Trudeau, Macron, and Boris Johnson and we don't have audio of it, but you can read their lips, and they're making fun of Trump because he's not in the elite club. He's too stupid. He doesn't have class. He doesn't have the same mannerisms of the rich and powerful. Doesn't matter how much money he has. They're laughing and giggling about the dumb things he does. If he was their good friend, they could say the exact same thing while he's sitting there with them, and everyone would laugh about it. Oh, that's just good old quirky Donald Trump with his 40-minute press conference. But he's not, and everyone knows he's not. Everyone sees that video as the elite, the cultural elite, making fun of people who don't have the same amount of class as they do. And that seeps into the minds of every single person on the planet. There's situations like that all over the world. And that is why Trump can get away with making fun of anybody. He's punching up. He's always punching up, and it's okay to punch up. It's okay when your 6-year-old kid insults you, even in a way that makes sense. But you can't insult your 6-year-old the same way your 6-year-old insults you. You can't be as blunt. Donald Trump is the 6-year-old. When he makes fun of a 16-year-old girl, he's still punching up because she's classier than him. She's better than him. She's supposed to take it on the chin and walk away, and she does. There's a difference when a doctor calls a fast food worker a moron, and when a fast food worker calls a doctor a moron. There's almost an implied sarcasm that everyone on Earth who is around to hear the joke knows about. It's okay for people who make $30,000 a year to make fun of doctors for doing something stupid or forgetting something, because the doctor is supposed to be secure enough in their own situation to be able to handle the jokes and the insults that come at them. Like, their life is better than the person who's insulting them. So they're not going to take the insult to heart. Another example, being attractive. It's different when someone that everybody knows is attractive calls an ugly person ugly to their face, and when two supermodels are just teasing each other about being ugly, or how ugly they look when they wake up in the morning. But it's okay because they're both comfortable enough to take these jokes. Their ego isn't affected by this because they know and they've been told their entire life that they're good looking. But if you call an ugly 12-year-old with braces and glasses and messed up hair ugly, and they've been made fun of for being ugly before, and they don't get positive attention from basically anyone, yeah, that's going to be more hurtful. We know this. And this is something we can't unlearn. We can't keep a clean slate on this and treat all insults the same from all people. The groundwork has already been laid. It's okay to make fun of attractive people for having a zit, but it's not okay to make fun of someone whose face is full of zits. I mean, it is okay, but they're gonna take it a lot harder than someone who, on a normal day, is actually attractive. Hopefully, I've got the message across. So, bring in Trump again for this example. He's the person with zits all over his face. He's the person with the most ridiculous dumb hair you can imagine. He's ugly. When you make fun of his hair, that might actually hurt him. If you told Justin Trudeau that his hair looked like, I don't know, a mop, how do people make fun of other people's hair? He would literally just laugh at you. Hopefully, I have now set the stage to talk about why mainstream media is failing to convince most Trump voters that he is bad for them. Like, how can someone dumber than us continue conning people, and why can't us, the smarter people, convince them the truth, and this is the truth, that they're being conned? It's because of the punching down. Like, hey everybody, let's make fun of how long his tie is and how he doesn't know how to walk in a suit. Like, yeah, there's a lot of coal miners who also look like that in a suit. Sorry, Don Lemon and Anderson Cooper, not everyone wears a suit and tie to work every day. How are they gonna know the correct length of tie to wear? So not only do these jokes not land because you're punching down, you're making fun of a 6-year-old when you make $300,000 a year and wear a suit and tie every day. Not only do they not land because of that, when you talk about how stupid Trump looks when he does things, these are the same things that other people who aren't in the cultural elite have problems with. They can smell the snobbery from miles away. So not only do the insults not do anything, you shouldn't be coming in at that angle in the first place. Hello? The tax cuts? The trillions of dollars in tax cuts that add to the debt? The US debt? Talk to people who say, yeah, I haven't seen a difference in the amount of taxes I pay every year, but apparently corporations in America are now paying trillions of dollars less in taxes every year. Talk about how if the economy is so great, why are people unable to afford insulin? Why does 80% of the money in the stock market belong to the top 10% wealthiest people? Why does Trump say he's for the people and then hire Goldman Sachs executives for his cabinet? Why have more jobs been outsourced under Trump than Obama? This is a fact. This is a verifiable fact. This is something that Trump has run on. That, remember that carrier stunt he made? Oh, we're gonna give them massive tax breaks to keep jobs in America. That's what the Rust Belt is into. They want to keep their livelihood. They want to keep their jobs. But more jobs have been outsourced under Trump than Obama. That is literally an automatic winner. So what does CNN do? Instead of talking about policy and keeping us informed on the minutia of what bills are actually being passed in the Senate and the House, what do we get for the past month now? Impeachment news. I get it. Impeachment is news. Yes. So we're being informed of impeachment. Thank you. But did you know other things in the world are happening too? There are things that the media chooses to report on and things it doesn't. And this picking and choosing, whether intentional or not, has a huge effect on people, on the way people think, on what people do with the information they are given. If the Rohingya genocide was happening and no one in the news told me about it, I'm never going to know it happened because I live in the United States. If tens of billions of dollars were added to the military budget, that's news. That's something I would want to be informed about. I don't live in Washington, D.C. I don't work for the government. I need to be told these things. And what do you know? Tens of billions of dollars were added to the military budget. And I had to find out from an independent content creator on YouTube named Kyle Kulinski. Highly recommend him, by the way. I had to be informed by him that the Trump administration cut food stamps, added $22 billion to the military budget for next year, and that $22 billion increase includes Trump's Space Force. I also learned about different measures that were in the bill, like prohibiting US military support for Saudi-led intervention in Yemen. I learned that provisions like those were going to be in the bill and were stripped away. But instead, on CNN, every time I tune in, it is breaking news, impeachment. Here's what's happening today and tomorrow. Here's who's speaking today and tomorrow in impeachment. Why are we not informed of military spending increases? $22 billion increase? By the way, that brings the total to $738 billion in military spending for 2020. Why are there more segments about Pelosi clapping at Trump than about the policies that are being implemented that affect people's lives? I guess the people that run these companies just don't understand because they have a lot of money. The anchors that report for these companies have a lot of money, so they just don't even realize what planet the rest of us are living on. But a lot of these things matter to people. Like, the real policy changes matter to people. The money amount in the Trump tax cuts matter to people. The coal miners in West Virginia do not care that Nancy Pelosi smugly clapped behind Trump's back during the State of the Union address. It's okay for people with 10 followers on Twitter to make stupid memes about funny, weird drama and gossip that happens on Capitol Hill. But it is not okay for mainstream media to do it. I'm sorry. You can't get away with the same things that people with 10 Twitter followers can. Do you want to know why? Because when you do it, you're punching down. Every person on air on CNN and MSNBC likely make over $100,000 a year. Do any of them know, or do any of the people writing the text on the teleprompter know, that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? Do they know that almost 50% of workers make $30,000 a year or less? Do they know that those people are not quite worried about impeachment when they have to worry about putting food on the table? But you can bet they'll care about food stamps being cut. You can bet they'll care about the details of a tax plan and what it means for them. You can bet they'll care about jobs being moved overseas. Do you think they care about the Dow Jones going up 100 points when they have about $2,000 in their 401k? You think that matters to them? Do you think they're worrying about what type of aid the Ukraine is getting from us when their father is in the hospital with cancer and they have a $3,000 medical bill they have to worry about? Like, hey, don't get me wrong, you might get more clicks and more eyeballs when you pretend that the world of politics is just a high school drama play being set in motion. But don't be surprised that when you pretend that this drama play is the only thing going on, don't be surprised when all of these struggling people start to despise you. I hope you already realize that just because more people are watching certain segments of your show doesn't mean they enjoy that segment more. Just letting you know. And the only people you have on your side that don't think there's anything wrong with what you're doing are the people who are just as comfortable as you are in this economy. So when there's nothing at the base level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that needs to be taken care of for you, you can afford to worry about what's going on in the high school play. You can go to the opera house and watch the play. You can get invested in the drama and not worry about everything else that's going on around you. And everyone else will hate you for it. Every time I tune in, banner on the bottom, breaking news, or bombshell. Everything is a bombshell, everything is breaking news, except impeachment's been going on for God knows how long, and pretty sure it's not breaking news anymore. Hey, guess what? Breaking news. The Senate is not going to remove him from office. I saved you some time watching TV. You're welcome. I guess I can't speak for everyone. I can't speak for the people that seem to enjoy salivating over hearing sanctimonious speeches from Democrats about how the other party is soiling our great nation, our hallowed ground, and how it's such a tragedy, and how our standing in the world is ruined and everyone's laughing at us. But it appears I can speak for most millennials, because they happen to be snubbing mainstream media as well. There was a recent Quinnipiac poll for Democratic primary voters under the age of 35 and who they're voting for. Bernie Sanders is winning with 52% of the vote, and second place is Warren with 17%, and Biden has 11, and Yang has 7, and Buttigieg has 2. Just take a second and realize how completely different those numbers are than the overall picture when you include everyone. It is striking, to say the least, and it says a lot, because Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren talk more about policy, talk more about saving people's lives than the other candidates do. Instead of talking about impeachment and how terrible of a candidate Trump is, they talk about how they're going to improve people's lives. That's what young people want. And what CNN wants is to have eyeballs watching the screen when the ad comes on. It's really that simple. And it's sad. That's a lot of companies' business models, I understand that. It's to CNN's benefit to spin up a juicy story about Pelosi and Trump in a heated exchange, and oh, she's sassy and she's got a mean bite to her. Like, What? No one cares. If you're not passing a bill that saves me money on healthcare, why do I care that you were mean to him? They're electing Republican judges for life. They cut food stamps for people. Just like last week. Just really think about it. Don't pay attention to anything else for the next minute and think about what a coal miner in West Virginia would think if you told them that the military budget had an authorized increase of $22 billion, while more people lost health insurance this year than they did under Obama in 2016. Give them facts, give them numbers, show them wage growth in the past 5 years. Don't have a little ticker of the Dow Jones in the bottom right corner of the screen as the only indicator of how the economy is doing. Tell them that the measure included in the military budget increase bill that was just passed for prohibiting U.S. military support for the genocide in Yemen, tell them that measure was removed because of Jared Kushner. Because it was. Because that's the truth. Tell them the parental leave that was included and not stripped out of the bill, that was guaranteed to federal workers only, was included because of Ivanka Trump. I didn't hear that from CNN, but if CNN told me that, told the blue-collar worker in West Virginia that watching it on TV, and if you told them that, while juxtaposing it with the Hunter Biden scandal and telling them, hey, it seems pretty stupid to hate Joe Biden for giving his son a sinecure while Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump get away with passing actual legislation that affects actual Americans solely because they are related to the president. Tell them to think about that. You think Hunter Biden's getting a free pass, making all this money, doing nothing? You think Joe Biden's getting a free link? Okay, what about Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump? They are making policy with no experience, and they are where they are because of their relation to the president. If one is corruption, the other is corruption. Why aren't you talking about that? You know what they do instead? Here, I'll show you some examples. And before I start, sorry to Don Lemon. I am literally only going to be using you for the next few clips because it's just too easy.
When I read this tonight, I thought this was the craziest thing that I had ever heard, especially coming from the president. This is what the New York Times is reporting. Okay, listen closely. And it's based on interviews. The New York Times is reporting it. It's based on interviews with more than a dozen White House and administration officials directly involved, okay? That last March, when the president was considering shutting down the border and outraged at not being able to deliver on his signature campaign promise, remember, build that wall. Well, the president suggested shooting migrants in the legs to slow them down. That's not the, you got to hear the rest. Here's the rest. Quote, privately, the president had often talked about fortifying a border wall with a water-filled trench stocked with snakes or alligators, prompting aides to seek a cost estimate. He wanted the wall electrified with spikes on top that could pierce human flesh. After publicly suggesting that soldiers shoot migrants if they threw rocks. The president backed off when his staff told him that was illegal. But later, in a meeting, aides recalled he suggested that they shoot migrants in the legs to slow them down. That's not allowed either, they told him. Again, sounds hard to believe, doesn't it?
This is actually a clip that, on the substance, isn't so bad. But just notice, I left in, I didn't make any cuts to this. Do you notice the gaps in his speech? It's like he's aghast at just how insane this is, at how insane the text is that he's reading. As well he should be, but it's like he makes an affectation, like an overarching effort to show you that he's aghast. How could you say something so unbelievably stupid? You uncultured swine. It oozes smugness. Like, it doesn't matter if you're right. People will hate you based on the attitude you present it with.
About our president.
Yeah, as if he's a joke. They're talking about him. It's the truth.
You know, the whole payoff here of his style.
When people are laughing at you, that means you're the joke. He's the brunt of a joke right there. And the irony here, he's the one who's always making fun of people, coming up with pet names, calling people horrible names, pet names, Sleepy Joe and whatever, right? And he gets laughed saying, oh, the whole world. He's right. People are laughing not at us, but at him.
They're certainly not laughing with him like they do at the rallies. You know, it's like our mothers taught us. You know, when you say ugly things, it says more about you than whoever you're directing it toward. Mm-hmm. And like Angela Merkel sitting next to him today when he said, Trudeau's two-faced. But you know what? He's a pretty nice guy. You know, the payoff to his style is supposed to be that it is perceived as strength around the world and that Obama was soft, but Trump is strong, and that's why we get so much respect. Does that look like respect? Those are major world leaders.
They put up with him because they know they have to.
But I mean, look, I'm just saying that, for the people who support the president, and they say, listen, I like his muscularity. You don't like the way he talks, Cuomo. You don't like the way he talks, Lemon. But you know what? It projects his strength, and it's good for America to be strong. Do we look strong now?
It doesn't matter. Look, he can talk the way he wants to talk. He's the president of the United States.
Right.
He represents me. He represents you. He represents the entire country. And so if you're going to represent me, then act like you've been there before. Have some dignity about yourself. Don't do things that are gauche. Don't act like a 5-year-old and expect to be treated like and expect to be treated with respect. Don't act like a child and expect to be treated like an adult. Don't be disrespectful to people, or not respectful. Disrespectful, I think, is not actually a word. But don't not be respectful to people and then expect to be treated with respect. Don't be nasty to the media and then say, well, the media always treats me terribly. Don't do horrible and unethical things and then expect people to write glowing reviews about you. So I think the hypocrisy is just unbelievable. That is not an opinion that I'm giving. That is a fact. And this is what happens. People laugh at you behind your back and they talk about you terribly. And then you take your marbles and your toys and you go home because the kids are laughing at you. I want to leave camp early, Mom. Everybody is being mean to me, so I'm going to go back and I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to have my press conference. That's what happened.
Or he has one for way too long, which is what Trudeau was complaining about. I mean, look, at the end of the day, an election is about persuasion. And did he deliver? You're better off than you were. And there are different gradations of that. You know, his slogan is "Make America Great Again." You tell me what's great about that. You tell me what's great about being laughed at, not on the basis on a policy, not because we're in economic decline and people are saying, "Oh, you're not so big now." They're laughing at you despite your greatness.
You know who they
all
never
need
did that
us.
with?
Everybody there needs us for their own well-being, and they still laugh.
They never did that with the guy he is jealous of, and that's Obama. Did you see the way Justin Trudeau used to look at Obama? Like,
A lot to go through in this one. Do you hear Cuomo at the end there say, what's the slogan, Make America Great Again? And then he goes on to say, it's not about policy. He says, you tell me what's great about being laughed at. That's what bothers him the most. That's it. I could stop right there. That's what these guys care about. They're American. They feel embarrassed by their leader. And they should be. That's an okay feeling. But, hey guys, you're on TV. You're talking to people whom 99.9% of them make less money than you and have problems and rely on the news to keep them informed, not to hear you cry about how bad this baby is making us look. So he purposely steers away from policy and says, oh, no, it's not even in an economic downturn. It's the way he acts in front of other world leaders. That's the problem, right? Well, yeah, that's a problem. But it's not the biggest problem. You're missing out on a chance to pummel this guy. You don't even talk about the jobs shipped overseas, the people losing their health insurance. That doesn't come up enough. And listen to these 15 seconds again.
people laugh at you behind your back and they talk about you terribly. And then you take your marbles and your toys and you go home because the kids are laughing at you. I want to leave camp early, Mom. Everybody's being mean to me, so I'm going to go back and I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to have my press conference. That's what happened.
There you have it. What is he doing? He's punching down. He's punching down to the 6-year-old. And he's right. But you're in a different situation. It's, to use Don Lemon's word, it's gauche to punch down. To make fun of a 6-year-old for being 6.
And all the blustering at tonight's rally, Trump's war room posted a meme on Twitter today showing Trump as the supervillain Thanos from the Marvel Avengers movies, dispatching his Democratic enemies. What are we, in junior high school? Like, what the hell? What is this? Like, what? What? I cannot believe that I'm even having to report this on the news. This is crazy. This is literally crazy. Are you people insane? Are you insane? Go ahead. Troll the Democrats on Twitter. Do this stupid, silly, you know what? Play this stupid, juvenile meme game. History won't record this meme, stupid crap. But history will record this, the seriousness of what is happening. That today is the day that the House of Representatives in the United States of America introduced articles of impeachment against President Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America, for committing high crimes and misdemeanors.
I included this one just so you could hear the I'm so above it all in his voice. The only part I edited in that clip was I took out the actual playing of the meme that was posted. Those long pauses he has between words, those are the actual pauses. And you can smell the elitism just from how long the pauses are. And here's a bonus clip of Majority Leader Steny, Steny, Steny Hoyer, Democratic representative from Maryland. Here's a clip of his speech on the House floor during the impeachment vote.
Who among us, many years from now, will receive such praise as a man or woman of courage? Who will regret not having earned it?
Let's stop here for a brief moment before I continue at a different part of Mr. Hoyer's speech. Like, can you believe, I hate when people talk about that. Like, oh no, think about your legacy. Think about the name you'll leave behind and what people will think of you. Sorry, that's the wrong answer. That's the wrong explanation. That's encouraging people to do the right thing for selfish reasons. That's saying to your Republican colleagues, hey, you're never gonna see it my way, but maybe you do realize that in not even 100 years, but like 10 years, literally everyone in both parties will be like, yeah, Trump was a complete moron. Assuming he doesn't live for the next 80 years as some, like, robo-Trump monster. Sorry, that is the wrong thing to talk about. Think about your own legacy. Don't think about the people. Who cares about the people? Just think of how embarrassed you'll be if your name is attached to his in the annals of history. Anyway, let's move on.
But as President Kennedy wrote, the stories of past courage can teach. They can offer hope. They can provide inspiration. But they cannot supply courage itself. For this, President Kennedy said, each man, each woman must look into their own soul. I urge my fellow colleagues in the House and, yes, in the Senate to look into your soul. Summons the courage to vote for our Constitution and our democracy. I understand we will all not see the same conclusion, but to do less betrays our oath and that of our founders, who pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor.
All I hear from that is meaningless platitudes. No one in real life talks like this. Not even the cultural elites. At least when they're not on a stage. Blue-collar workers in Middle America are going to hear this and think you sound like the most snobbish, sanctimonious person they've ever heard. And it sounds very similar to the speeches that Don Lemon gives on occasion, and other media anchors and pundits. They talk about things like, how dare you soil the hallowed ground of the presidency, the hallowed ground of our great nation. Newsflash, it's not hallowed ground. Nothing is sacred. Our society is getting more and more rational and non-religious every single day. And old traditions are being thrown to the wayside as well. And not only is that true for liberals, but it's happening to conservatives too. Much slower, but it's still happening. You can thank the president for speeding that process up. It's hypocritical for the Christian conservatives who say religion and tradition matters to them, but at the same time, they don't care about the tradition of decency in the presidency, of having a Christian-like figure in the White House. They will all tell you with a straight face, yeah, I know he cheated on all his wives, and he probably had an abortion, but I don't care. I still like him. Tradition doesn't matter to them either. Religion doesn't matter to them either. At least religion how you would think to define it. Following the Bible? No, that's not how it works anymore. It's just you make up your own definition of who is Christ-like. And that definition is people that I like are Christ-like. And people that I don't like aren't Christ-like. But anyway, all you need to know about that is tradition and religion are being thrown in the trash. So when you say things like, how dare you soil the hallowed ground of the presidency, and you talk about your soul and other meaningless platitudes, people will say, okay, so when you say stuff like that, that means you don't have a real reason as to why he should be impeached. You need to have real, substantive reasons as to why he needs to be impeached. When 90% of your speech is saying that he bullied someone on Twitter, and you're talking about the soul of the nation, or how you're going to live with yourself by supporting someone who says bad words, you lose so many people. Saying he's pissing on the glory of the Constitution isn't enough either. When you say something that Trump has done wrong, and your reasoning for why it's wrong is because it is beneath the presidency, you aren't doing a good job of explaining why it's wrong. They won't be against him if the Constitution says he's wrong, but they think he's right. Yeah, Republicans, the people who go to sleep with the Constitution every night, they will throw it to the wind if they actually go over what the president has done in their own heads and compare it with their own moral values and not the values that a piece of paper tells them to have. And if they think it's okay according to their own moral values, they will be okay with it. Constitution be damned. If the Constitution told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? If the presidency had mandatory rules set in 1776 to never grow any facial hair because it looks unprofessional, would you impeach a president for growing a beard? When you salivate over the Constitution in your speech as a Democrat, you're the one that sounds like the Republican. I'm not afraid to say it myself. I think if people decide as a majority that there's an amendment or there is an article in the Constitution that they think is no longer conducive to our current society's success because we live in 2020 and not 1850, then go right ahead, make a case for why that article or that amendment should be removed or altered, or why we should add a new amendment. Amendments exist because the Constitution is not infallible. So when people use the Constitution as a crutch It's like saying, hey, this rule is in place now, and what you did was bad because it's against the rules. And you don't actually explain why the rule exists in the first place. And when you talk about souls and legacies and the hallowed ground of the presidency, that's code for I have no idea why what he did was wrong. Okay, and let's move on again to the Mueller report. And the level of coverage of the Mueller report is a whole nother story. That dominated mainstream media for a lot longer of a time than impeachment will. And don't forget about Stormy Daniels. That has nothing to do with collusion. And that was news for months too. Was there anything illegal about that? No, you just wanted to rub it in, see if the evangelical Trump vote actually cares about adulterers. Well, now you know. Not worth a month trying to tell people how hypocritical they're being for supporting an adulterous president. Because once again, whether or not he cheated on his wife has nothing to do with their life, with the money in their pocket. And we got thousands of hours of people arguing about what collusion is and how to prove collusion, when you could be talking about, oh my god, Trump just got fined $2 million for defrauding people. Oh my god, Trump just got fined X millions of dollars for running a fake, fraudulent university. Oh my god, he just got fined millions of dollars for using funds from his charity on himself. But no, let's talk about impeachment and the Mueller report. If you're really part of the resistance and you really want him out, you are going to change more minds if you talk about how he defrauds real people and affects middle class America's life, which he is doing, rather than talking about things that only concern the elites, the affluent. It's like watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and following celebrities. You're gonna get a lot of viewers doing that. A lot of people have fun listening in and watching celebrities and how they live their lives and the drama that goes on. But a news channel isn't a place for this. And it turned into one, or it has been one for a long time, because they're a private business and they need to make money with ads. So they tell you all about what Kim Kardashian and her family is doing, instead of telling you about the average Joe in middle America and what policies are affecting his life. And when people are really struggling, they're gonna realize that you talking about Kim Kardashian all the time shows that you have no awareness that they are struggling. And the sad part is, you would actually help change people's minds if you did have that awareness. Actually, I lied. It's not only about the ad, but the producers of these news organizations and the anchors, this is what they're most interested in too. Not only do you get the most ad money, but they're so far into their own bubble that they think this is what everyone else in the country cares about the most too. And if you don't talk about the jobs that have moved overseas and all the people losing their health insurance, Trump gets to lie about it, say everything's going great, and no one challenges him. No one challenges him when he talks about the economy, but they'll say, oh my god, he wrote Kofefe on Twitter. Holy crap, did you see that? What an idiot. And then all his fans are going to say, I don't care. He's bringing jobs back to America. Alright, I think that's enough for me. See you in the new year. And okay. Okay. Alright. Thanks for listening.